Hi, I'm Mr. Ablett. I'm your new band teacher. And today we're going to be talking about what the flute is all about, how to put it together, how to hold it, how to make our first couple of notes on the instrument. And you may need to watch this video a few times so that you can really grasp a lot of the information. There's going to be a lot of information coming your way in the next 20 minutes or so. But this is going to make the first couple of weeks of band so much better if you really pay attention to what's going on with this particular video. So let's get started. Do you have your flute close by? If you don't, pause the video and go and grab your flute, and then I'll wait for you. All right, let's get started. So I've got my flute right here. And most flute cases are very similar in the way you open them up. You got to make sure that they're right side up when you open them. If you open them upside down, then your flute goes crash on the floor. You really don't want to have that happen. So let's start by opening the case properly. And this is what it looks like. Get my cloth out of the way. Okay, so that's what you're going to see when you open up your flute case for the very first time. We're going to talk about the anatomy of the flute now, and these are just the different parts of the flute, so that if I'm referring to them in band, you know what I'm talking about, okay? So as you can see, there's three parts to a flute. There's the head joint, the lip plate, which is part of the head joint. That's where you're going to blow, okay? And then there's the body of the flute. That's the main part, the big one is called the body. And then you might imagine the little one's called the foot, because there's a foot on the bottom of a body. Why not call it a foot? Okay, so those are the three parts of your flute. Okay, now, how to hold it, how to put it together. Oh my goodness. Flutes are complex machines, you know? And so we're gonna learn how to do that today. So I'm gonna start by handling the body of my flute, okay? And I'm going to insert the head joint. So I want to make sure that it lines up easily, okay? You don't need to put any sort of grease or anything on this joint. It just slides right together just like that. Now, really important that you notice when I put mine together, I'm not squeezing or manhandling the instrument in any way, shape, or form. So you don't want to grab the instrument and go and try and put it together, because then you're likely going to bend all these delicate little keys. See this little one that sticks out there? That one often gets bent. And we want to make sure that we're looking after our instrument, because bent keys means the flute doesn't play properly, and band just gets frustrating if your instrument's not working. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell as your band teacher. Is it the student, or is it just the instrument's not working quite right? Like maybe it's, 5% less efficient. We want to make sure that our instruments are in good working order as much as we possibly can. Okay, so moving right along. Here's the foot joint, and we're going to place that on the foot. You can see how it's got a little end cap there, and it's got all the keys, okay? So we don't want to put it on the wrong way, because then that's not going to work properly. You want to put it on like that. There we go. All right, now that we have the instrument together, we want to align it properly, okay? Because if I tried to play it and the flute was out of alignment, it would be really difficult to make a sound doing it like this, wouldn't it? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the lip plate with the hole that you blow in, and I'm going to line it up with all of these keys all the way down the instrument. And I'm going to do that by looking down the length of the instrument. I close one eye, and that's how I line it up. And you'll figure it out over a little bit of practicing, like, oh, wait a minute, my lip plate is low, so I have to do this, or it's kind of having to turn the instrument or do something weird to accommodate the instrument not being put together properly. Okay, now, how do we align? That's how you align the head joint. How do you align the foot joint? Well, you know what? I'm going to leave that in your capable hands, literally. Because I have big, huge man hands, my foot joint is going to be in a slightly different position than yours is. And so a lot of people will say, okay, we'll put your keys all in line up here. If you've got smaller hands, which I'm assuming you do, you might want to rotate them a little bit towards you. And that's okay. If I did that, I'd be like trying to, instead of my finger coming down on top, I'd have to go in on the side, and it would be really weird for me. So because I have larger hands, I'm going to put my keys more on top. but you're probably going to do something a little bit different. That's okay. All right. So now we've got our flute and we know how to put it together. Awesome. That's great. Now here's how to hold it. Again, challenging. The first thing I would say is a flute kind of rests like a teeter-totter, a seesaw, like that. On the first knuckle of your hand, right here, it rests just on the side, okay? And that helps me balance the instrument. Whenever I see flute players struggling to hold on to their instrument and it's all wacky, it's because they're not letting it rest on their hands, okay? And then we're going to put our thumb on the big key on the back. See how there's a long key and a stubby key? We're going to be using this one today, okay? And then with our left hand, here's the placement of our fingers. We have our first finger goes here, and the second finger goes there. See how it misses one? And then the third finger goes there. Pinky just hovers above. So let's do it again. Thumb goes on the long key right there. Index finger goes here. Middle finger, ring finger. Okay? And then when I lift the instrument, it rests on that part of my hand. Now, the right hand is a little bit easier. Let's build it from the bottom up. Our pinky hovers above these pinky keys, and then we go 3, 2, 1. Pinky hovers above these keys, and we go ring finger, middle finger, index finger. Thumb just presses on the bottom like that. So if you're doing this to hold the instrument, you're doing it right. Okay? Now, that's how you hold it. Let's make our first sound. You ready? Embouchure is just a fancy word for the way that we form our mouth to make music on specific instruments, okay? Flute is going to be a little bit unique because there's nobody else that blows across their mouthpiece. Only the flutes do that. And that's why you guys are special that way. So let's make our first sound. Take your head joint out for me just for a moment. And just as an aside, here's how you put your instrument down, okay? You're going to have to do that from time to time. Don't put it on your music stand, because somebody will knock your music stand, your flute's going to go kablooey, and then you have to go to the repair shop and you miss a whole week of band. That's not good. Let's put it on top of our case, on the floor next to us. It doesn't have to sit on the floor, but put it on top of your case, okay? That way it can't fall off of your music stand, and you just have to be careful not to knock it with your foot, okay? We want to look after our instrument. So now we've just got the head joint, okay? So we want to hold the head joint so that the open part is on our right hand. This is my right hand, okay? Just like the way we hold the flute. We hold it like this, okay? With the left hand in front, the right hand in behind. I'll show you again when I've got the flute together. Now, let's make a sound on the head joint. It's going to sound like a little toy train whistle when we do it right. The tricky part is you have to know where the hole is. It's really hard to know. So there's a trick. We're going to take the hole in the lip plate and we're going to put it on our top lip like this. Okay? So we can feel that it's right in the middle. It's not too high, it's not too low, it's not left or right. It's right in the middle. It's perfect. Okay? It looks like a funny mustache. Now, when I stop talking and roll the instrument down, that's all you have to do. Okay? It's on your top lip, right in the center. Just put your lips together like you're saying, And you should be able to make that sound. Okay? Keep trying. If you don't have your head joint out right now, get your head joint out and try along with me. Do you hear how it's not perfect every time? That's okay. That's okay. If you make a mistake like me, no big deal. All right? I'm not a professional flute player. That's a whole other career. That's a whole lifetime of study. Right? See how it wasn't focused the first time I played it and I made a little adjustment? You can do the same thing. Okay, now, here's something that's kind of fun. Take your pinky and stick it in the hole in the end. Boy, that'll annoy the neighbors, don't you think? It's just something fun that we can do as flute players. All right, so now I'm going to put my instrument back together. I'm going to line up the hole that I blow in with the tops of the keys. And I'm going to do my good fingering exercises, right? We're going to put our thumb on that key. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip that key, right? And then we're going to go and then our fingers hover on the bottom. We balance the instrument on that fulcrum, just like a teeter-totter or a seesaw. Okay. Now, let's make the sound on the flute. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put our pinky down on that key, on the highest key, right next to the one where you normally put your other finger. Okay, not that one, or not the roller down there, this one here. Okay, and then nothing else. We're just going to make it super easy. I'm going to roll the flute up so I know where the hole is. Okay, so I've got a sound happening. Have you got a sound happening? Have you tried? Okay, so let's lift our instruments together. I'm going to play a little rhythm on this one note, and I want you to do the same rhythm after me. So I'll go first, and then you echo after me. Ready? First me, then you. Your turn. Now me. Now you. How'd you do? Did you make a good sound? You know what? If you didn't make a good sound, it's okay. Musicians are, man, we're experts at making mistakes. Okay? You're going to make thousands of mistakes as we go through our process in band. It's okay. If it sounds a little funny, it's okay. If you couldn't make a sound at all, that's okay too. All right? Don't be too hard on yourself. But what I do want you to do is to keep trying. Okay? Stay at it. Don't just try it once and go, oh, this is dumb, I can't do this, and throw your flute across the room. That's a terrible idea. Okay? Stick with it. Try it for 5 or 10 minutes. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Come and talk to me during band class. I'll help you. I'm the nicest guy in the world. Okay? And I'm here to help you learn how to do this stuff. This stuff's hard. Okay? It really, really is. It's a lot of people that just give up on music when they're young. Okay, and that's a real shame. You should stick with it, because I've met so many adults who tell me, boy, I sure wish I would have stuck with my instrument when I was young, when I was in band, or when I played piano, or whatever it was, violin, voice, all the different things that people do when they're young. Stick with it, okay? Promise? Okay, I believe you. Okay, so now we're going to learn 3 notes. 3 notes, oh my goodness, that's so much. I know. But after we learn our 3 notes, we're going to play a little concert. Right now. Yeah. Well, I'll teach you the 3 notes first, and then we'll learn how to play a song. Okay? So here's the first note. The name of the note is B flat. Okay? And the way we write it in music is on the 3rd line, the line goes right through the middle of the note, and that's a B flat. Okay? And this is how we do the fingering. So this is a picture of a flute. It's like a schematic diagram, if you've ever heard one of those before, okay? So these 2 little shapes are the 2 keys on the back. It's that key, the stubby one, and then the long one, right? There's the stubby one, there's the long one. And this is your 1st finger, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, and then a line to indicate that this bottom half is for your right hand. And then 1, 2, 3 for the right hand, and then pinky. Okay, so here's what they're telling you. All the black ones are the notes you're supposed to push down. So it says push down the long key for the thumb, this one here, just the one we practiced already. Okay, index finger, these 2 float. Index finger, these 2 float. Pinky. Now, pinky helps us to balance the instrument. When I have it against my jaw, and I push a little bit with that fulcrum that we've been talking about, that's how we end up with a real strong hold on the instrument, and it's not wobbly and weird when we're trying to play it. Okay, so I'm going to try and play a B flat, and then I want you to echo after me. First me, then you. Ready? The instrument goes up on my top lip. I roll down. Here's a B flat. Your turn. My turn. Your turn. All right, good job, good job. Now, if you're still having troubles making a sound on the instrument, do you have a phone handy? Or maybe just a mirror would be enough. Something where you can see your own reflection. And then hold the instrument up. And maybe you're doing something that you don't really perceive yourself doing, right? You're doing something with your face, which is keeping you from making a good sound. Maybe you're smiling too much. Maybe you're frowning. Actually, frowning kind of works in a lot of ways, right? I tend to have sort of a real sort of straight, maybe a little bit of a smile on the edges. And I get little dimples here, okay? So have a look at yourself in the mirror and try different things. Make sure you're aligned, okay? Make sure you're doing that trick every time you pick up your flute. Okay, flute goes on the top. You get the funny flute mustache. Okay, and then you can make a sound on the flute. Making a sound on the flute is like one of the hardest things that flute players have to deal with at the beginning of band. Everybody has their own thing that they have to deal with. Trumpets, they have trumpet problems. Flute players, they have flute problems. It's okay. All right, let's work on our next note. Our next note is called C, and it lives on the third space, counting from the bottom. F-A-C-E, as you remember that from your music classes before. Okay, and it looks a lot like B flat, doesn't it? It only has first finger down in the left hand and pinky in the right hand. So let's look at that. First finger, I'm going to lift my fingers nice and high so you can tell that I'm not pushing down the thumb key or anything like that. And then pinky here, okay? All right, nice going, nice going. Here's our next note. It's called D. There it is. It lives on the fourth line. E, G, B, D, F. Every good boy deserves fudge. You probably remember that. I don't know if you've learned it quite that way. Everybody learns it a little bit differently, but that's the way that I teach it. E, G, B, D, F, and this one's called D. So D is a hard note to play on the flute. Sorry. Because you have to go from C to D. Whoa! Switching almost every finger. It's really challenging. It's not something that most people get on their first time trying it. Or maybe their 10th time trying it. Okay, good luck. Here we go with the thumb key. No first finger, 2, 3. Then the right hand, 1, 2, 3. And no pinky. Pinky hovers. Okay. All right, how's it going so far? Keep at it, don't give up. All right, now you may have noticed that I have started all of my notes. I use the tip of my tongue to start my notes so they sound clear and powerful, okay? And what I do is that I take the tip of my tongue and I put it right in behind my top teeth inside my mouth. Okay, can you feel that with the tip of your tongue? You feel that? Like you're saying the word T or two. Repeat after me. So right on my gums, on the roof of my mouth, the very tip of my tongue is saying, and that's how I start all of my notes. Okay, so that's one technique. It's called tonguing, as you might guess. And there's another technique on the flute, which is called slurring. Slurring is when you switch between notes, but you don't use your tongue, and it makes this nice, smooth, lovely sound. So let's practice going between a B flat and a C. Okay, and we're going to practice switching between those two notes. I'll do them sometimes slurred, sometimes tongued. You listen and respond and copy what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. I'll start and then you go. Starting on B flat. So you have to move both of those fingers at the same time. This thumb and this finger have to move exactly at the same time. It takes a little bit of coordination sometimes to get these things down. Like I said at the beginning of the video, there's a lot to it, okay? So if you can't do all of it, hey, that's what tomorrow's for. Okay, now we're going to play our first concert. Okay, so if your cat or your goldfish or your pet ferret is nearby, you can bring them in and they'll be your audience, okay? Or maybe mom would have the courage, mom or dad would have the courage to listen to you. Okay, we're going to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, okay? And it's super easy in terms of the notes. You know them already. So it goes D, C, B flat, C, D, 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 C, 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 D, 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 C, B flat, C, D, 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 C, C, D, C, B flat. Okay? And if you don't get it the first time, you know what to do. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Our first song. Here we go. Yeah, there you go. Even if you got just a part of that song, even if you just got like the first note, hey, that's a win. That's a success at this point. Okay, that's an awesome job. Okay, now what do we do when we're finished practicing and when we're finished in band? We have to make sure that we maintain our instrument so that it's going to be playable the next day, right? And the way we do that is that we keep it clean and we keep it dry. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put my flute down on top of my flute case. All right, and then I'm going to pull out this other equipment which comes with every flute, and this little stick with the thread, the hole in the end, it looks like a needle that you have to thread with a piece of thread, is called the swab. Okay, and I had this piece of felt laying around, orange felt that I wasn't using for anything else. Okay, and that's what I made. Okay, this is actually a little bit on the big side, but you know what? It's pretty close for what you need. It doesn't have to be felt. It just has to be some soft cloth that's going to not fall apart when you put it inside the instrument. Okay, and we don't want it any bigger than the head joint. See, my piece of felt is a little bit on the big side. Should go something maybe a little bit thinner. Okay, so I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to turn it around. And what it's going to do is that it's going to pick up all of the moisture that's all the condensation inside the instrument. And it's going to wipe it clean. I'm going to do the same. You don't really have to do the foot joint, but you can if you want to. Boop. Okay, there we go. And then the main thing to do is the body of the flute. Okay, so without dropping it, I'm going to push it all the way through and then back. And then through this side. Give it a little twist, and it's going to gather up all that condensation. It's going to protect my pads. It's going to get any dirt that has accumulated inside the instrument. One other point, make sure that you are having a drink of water before you come to band, okay? Especially if we have band right after lunch, or if you've had a snack at recess. You really don't want to have any food residue left in your mouth, any sugars or anything like that that are still being digested blown into your flute. Okay, that's just going to make the instrument not very clean, and it's not going to operate properly. And like I said, we want to make sure that we keep everything in good working order so that band is always a pleasure to play in, right? So now I put my flute carefully away in the case. Normally I wouldn't say to put anything on top of the flute, but one little piece of fabric on top is not the end of the world. That's going to be okay. And I close the lid. This is a really important part that a lot of students don't get. Lock the lid, okay? So that when you lift the flute case by the handle, it doesn't fall open and your flute goes crash on the floor, okay? So that's it. That's your first lesson on the flute. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, you can go back and review this lesson several times in the first month, even couple of months of band. And you can continue to work on hand position and making a beautiful sound and reviewing some of the information. Like I said, there's a lot of information here. So I hope you're going to have a wonderful time in band this year. If ever you need help, please come and talk to me. Don't be discouraged. Don't sit there thinking, oh, band is terrible. I hate this. I can't do what Mr. Ablett is telling me to do. It's okay. All right, come and talk to me. I'm here to help you. All right, and if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find out the answer for you, and I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that band is a wonderful experience for you this year. Okay, so I hope you've had fun with your first lesson, and I'll see you in rehearsal. Happy practicing.